Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Thursday. I guess we're the 6th day now of October 2022. Well, let me get my keyboard out of the way here. I've got a bunch of garbage all over my desk here. I'm not sure how that happened. I think it was herbal related, though. I went into the closet to look for some of last year's herbs to see what I had. Like I was doing a tea. And I like to do that. I like to make teas ahead of time. And so in fact, I even have one of those buckets you can buy at the home improvement stores. I have a couple of them, and I just make a whole bunch and dump it all in there of a particular kind, not all of them together or anything. But anyway, but I'm sure you know that. So let's see. I've got my runes. Everything's here. Okay, good. We can get started then. Oh, I see a light is not on. Let me turn this one on. There we go. I knew something was wrong. I didn't have the light on. That one's on. This one's on. So we're good. My computer kind of froze this morning. It ran out of application memory. So I'm starting a little bit late because I had to reboot and kind of figure out, okay, I just had too much open for too long. Anyway, but I think we're good now. So I hope you've all had a good week. Boy, Monday's reading, and I've got them on these little post-its right here on the computer. To have Hagalas and then three cards from the major arcana. Talk about a soul archetype Monday. We'll see what we get today, though. The esoteric influences today are a healing path may be opening that provides the ability, let me get this over here a little bit better so I can see it, the ability to address issues with family or close partners. Excuse me. Patience during this time will be necessary so that you're not influenced by any emotional reactions that will likely come up. Although you may assume that you know what others need, it may actually reflect your own issues. So listen with an open heart and respect the feelings of others. Ultimately, the healing you seek is spiritual in nature as you reach for a higher understanding and purpose. Persevere toward that objective, even as others may experience some resistance to that. In time, you'll be able to overcome, excuse me, any mistrust that might be preventing regaining group cohesion. Well, I think I'm going to lose my voice before I even get started. We were out last night watching satellites and rocket bodies, and I think there was only one thing that was up there that I couldn't identify, so that was kind of fun. I love the times when I can't identify much of anything. It's not anything showing up on any of the satellite tracking apps I have. So it's like, okay, what is that, Plus, they've started doing chemtrails again in our area. We've gone quite a while here without any, and then you'll have a day where they'll be up there, and then I took a cool picture of the moon the other night, and it was like in a V shape of chemtrails, and the moon was right here. So it was kind of cool looking, but I don't appreciate that stuff. Every time I inevitably they'll be out there and I'll have washed my hair and I'll go out there, work in the garden, I come back, it's like, oh God, what's happened. So anyhow, I've done the shuffling while I was waiting for the computer to come back, and then trying to close out windows that I don't need to have open. I tend to keep way too much open, and I don't really need it. I could open them and close them, but I don't. And eventually, it sort of tells the tale here when your computer no longer... It's like, oh, your computer has run out of application memory. Close things. Well, that wasn't enough. I had to reboot, so... Anyway, with that kind of force, we have Thurzaz as our rune for today. To start us out, the above side of As Above, So Below on the runes. The runes I view, again, if this is your first time here, welcome, by the way. And if you're coming back, thank you so much. But Thurzaz is one of the significators of the reading. The geomancy rune will be the other one. Will be the below side of things, the physical form side of things. But here with Thurazaz is an interesting rune. It's about, I mean, its defense is a means of protection, or you could look at it as what opposes you. You can look at it as, I mean, it means Thor's hammer. That's one of the things it can mean. I mean, the thorn. It can mean new beginnings. It can be useful in weather magic. But basically, we're looking at, I mean, it's really, well, it's also about giants and chaos, but it's also about new beginnings. So with all of that in mind, maybe there'll be some giants that come into your life today. Who knows? I mean, do we even know anymore? The world is so weird that they want to create chaos, and we're all kind of sitting back watching it. And I recommend that you don't get into it. You just kind of stand back and observe and do what you got to do to protect yourself from it. But there's so much chaotic energy right now that's out there that you find all kinds of and it's in all kinds of places. It's not, just in your immediate surrounding. It's everywhere. And I think the other thing that comes into my head at this point is lost direction. That whatever path someone was on that was of a positive sense, it's just not there now. And so I don't know what, I think that a lot of that is just going to have to work itself out. I don't know that anybody can influence other people at this point. Because they just seem really bent on whatever. If it's a positive thing, then it goes that way. But it just seems to be at polarities where it's really positive or really negative. And people have convinced themselves on the negative side that they're positive. So it makes it a kind of a weird thing to watch. It's like when religious people decide that all this stuff that was never okay is suddenly okay now. Oh yeah, as long as they're getting what they want. It's like, where did your spirituality go? And how did that happen? And it's like things are so diametrically opposed at this point that there's no way to really have a conversation with them and in a loving way and say, if it's someone real well, like family or a close friend, and you can't really say what happened, what happened to you, because they don't think that anything did. And so there's a delusional aspect to it. Where people are living either in full clarity or they're living in full illusion. And so that's what I mean about the chaos. There's no way to reconcile the two. There's no way to come to the middle on the two. So that's why it just kind of feels like you just want to step out away from it and go, okay, I'm checking out of this because I'm just going to go over here and be peaceful and not get involved with any of it, because none of it makes any sense at all. Well, we have Kata Draconis as the geomancy rune. Is that this one? Yes. Now, Kata is governed by the south node of the moon, and so you're talking about past life, past experience, karma, kind of the dweller on the threshold kind of an experience, and not on the threshold of something new, but you're kind of like what I was saying. I mean, it makes perfect sense that it'd be a Kata Draconis day. And with Thurazaz, you have to break through all of that and find the truth of it and find the healing within it. And I mean, Chiron is still in retrograde. And so again, with that, that's the wounded healer. And, but it gives you, you can't be so consumed by your woundings that they're the only thing that drive you. And you feel like a victim to everything, because that shouldn't be. It should be that it opens the space for you to examine these things and reflect on them and use it as insight to heal, use it as insight to help others heal. So I think that you're looking maybe at that kind of an energy with Thurazaz and Kata Draconis, where you use that past experience, even past life experience, if you're aware of that, and to examine how that's been impacting your life and what you can take from that to help you move forward on a different path, one that's more healing and accepting and full of insight. And with Thurisaz, in a way, there's the protection aspect of it. You're protecting yourself when you do that, because you're getting rid of stuff that really doesn't need to be there, doesn't need to be influencing your life any longer. And so perhaps we're looking at a breakthrough in that. With this reading today, Thurisaz is about kind of causing a breakthrough, if you will. So let's see what the cards have to say, though, and maybe we'll come up with something here that, gives a little more information to what the breakthrough's all about and what about your past is maybe holding you back. So let's go ahead and we'll cut the cards. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Well, 2 cards from the Major Arcana. Let's just get that out of my way. 2 cards from the Major Arcana, the Hangman and the Devil, and in the center we have the 3 of Pentacles. So this is interesting. What should I start with first? I think that I think I'm just going to read them in order. How about that? So here we're going to have a 3 energy here with the 12 plus the 3 here. So we've got a dual 3 energy here. 3 is about, when I think of 3, along with creativity, I think mind, body, spirit, balance. So there's a triplicity to that. That's an alignment type of a triplicity, I think. And the Hangman certainly dovetails well with that idea. Here you have a man hanging upside down from the gallows pole, basically. Although you still have greenery growing from it. It doesn't look like anyone's put that up there like a type of garland or anything. I think that it's just up there. But you have 3s here. You have 3s here. 3s here. But the Hangman's about surrender. You see the rays of light coming out from his head there. He's having a spiritual awakening of sorts. It's about transformation, change, sacrifice, surrender. But you're surrendering to spirit here, and you're allowing that to, with its downward motion, you're allowing that to really inform your perceptions and the choices you make, the decisions you make. It's a spirit focus versus an ego focus. So you see the enlightenment here. It's almost like a transmutation of ego into spirit kind of a card. So I guess maybe we're continuing on with our theme from Monday with the spiritual mastery of the Hierophant, the self in others, the alignment of polarities together in a better way with the Lovers, and what you give birth to with the Empress. So again, maybe we're kind of aligning with that with Monday's reading as well. Then we come to the 3 of Pentacles. Pentacles is about the earth element. It's about our physical, it's about physicality, material security, tradition, loyalty, all of that. It's the earthly side of self. So all physical, the whole physical aspect of self is contained within Pentacles. But here we have a man plying his trade, working his craft out in the open there, under a beautiful archway. You see 3 pentagrams above here within the circle, making them pentacles. You see a lovely flower right there. This is a really lovely card. The women have, it looks like 2 women. One of them might be a man, though. Hard to tell. We'll just say a couple has come by and they're admiring the guy's work. A little bit of a conversation about it. Perhaps they're considering hiring him based on what they see him doing. But it's that kind of integration that you have, when you own a small business, or you're a tradesman or a craftsman or what have you. You need that interaction with the public. You need the interaction with the people that you're going to do business with. And there's just a feeling, I think, of you see the creativity in it, you see the thoughtfulness in it. I wish that we could see more of what he's doing back here, but you can see he's got his apron on. So, keeping himself, protected while he's doing his stonework. Maybe he's putting the finishing touches inside. Maybe he did create this entire archway. But like with the Three of Cups, you see three people dancing in a circle, holding their cups high, and you see some abundance on the ground and all of that. There's a certain level of integration there. And when you align in spirit, you can have a better integration basically with other people. When the ego gets involved, as we all know, the ego is problematic, and it's not going to allow you to really connect with people in a way that's meaningful. And I think meaningfulness is another component of the three, particularly in terms of creativity. How do you creatively align with other people? How do you creatively integrate with other people? Again, is it all about you, or are you doing something in service to someone else? Which leads us then to the devil. In fact, we probably could have started with it and ended with the three. And we may do that. We may go ahead and read this from this perspective. Here we have our little goat-headed friend there, the devil, perched on a post with a little ring. You've got chains going to each individual here. They've got little horns on their heads. They're adorable. And you see the tail here on the man is the oak. It's basically very similar to the Lovers card, with the oak tree behind the man, and then the tree of knowledge behind the woman, the apple tree. Although this looks like a strawberry, or it could be a pomegranate, but I don't think so. I think it's more like a strawberry, it looks like. And as with the magician, you have the as above, so below stance, with one hand up to spirit and one hand up to, or one hand down to form. Well, in this case, the focus is on form with his torch, his lighted torch, instead of, this hand up to spirit and trying to enlighten. Instead, we're being enlightened by our own desires, slave to our desires, slave to ego. The pentagram inverted indicates, normally it would be like that in its normal presentation, with this top point pointed towards spirit. This is just pointed to ego, or pointed to physical form. But primarily it's pointed to ego. And so the devil, at least in my estimation, is not an actual individual. I think that the devil represents the ego within, and taking that path, instead of allowing spirit to, and the soul, which is what should be driving our experience to begin with, because that's what this is. We're a soul inhabiting a body, so we're not here to surrender the soul to ego. We're here to surrender the soul to spirit, and to allow that presence, that source presence, to guide us. And in fact, we could probably just switch the cards and read the devil first. And if we do that, then I think that we're examining and breaking through the ego of Kata Draconis with Thurisaz, and Thurisaz then sheds light. If you look at it in terms of weather magic, you can chant Thurisaz outside if you need the clouds to go away, and maybe you start to see the clouds start to dissipate, and you start to see the blue sky come back. You think about the power of Thor's hammer to cause great change. And the change within right now, and I think that this is kind of prescient, because I was just talking about that, with the uh, uh, idea of the polarity that we're experiencing right now in our amongst humanity, where you've got people that are really, really, really want to harm people for their own sake. They want to control. They want to do things that dupe other people, that bring them along to give them power, but not really to take care of them. They're not. There's nothing positive that's going to happen out of that whole experience. It's just going to keep things in disarray and in chaos. And I think that that's another aspect of Thurisaz. And so the issue then is, how do we get control of the devil within, or the ego, to be able to allow the higher awareness to come in and give a little bit more clarity to what's really going on? Do you really want your life to be lived at the expense of other people? Because that's really what a whole service to self kind of experience is, the ego side of self, the reactive ego. It's always in reaction to what's going to, what can I get from it all, or how can I use it to control the situation, instead of having everything come to truth and understanding, a higher level of understanding. Either we are all souls having this experience, or we're just leaving the soul in the dust, basically, and we're letting our egos run amok. And it just seems to be that type of a huge polarity. And realistically, that's what we have here. We'll put it this way. We have the ego side of things versus the higher self side of things, and surrendering to spirit. When you do that, when you surrender to spirit, then it makes this a better situation. Instead of him maybe lying about his skills and pretending to be something he's not, and trying to get people to do business with him when he's not a very good guy to do that with. Maybe he's not going to be there on time. Maybe he's promises that the work will be done on such and such a day, or in a particular span of a week or whatever. But 6 months later, you're still dealing with the guy, and nothing's done, and you've given him money, and I mean, hopefully not everybody has experienced things like that, but lots of people have. And where you're just sitting there waiting, you're either waiting, or perhaps it's the other way around. Someone hires you, and you have to basically take them to court in order to get your money, right? Because they're not going to pay you, but yet they've got the work you've done, right? That's all. Say they fixed your car. The guy fixes your car or something, or comes and does something at your house. It's all great, but he's still waiting to get paid, and you can't do that, right? You're just not going to do that. And so how this plays out, really, how you integrate with other people in some kind of a transactional type of experience, maybe, and even if that's just communication, even if it's just being supportive of one another, how that plays out depends on whether or not the ego is going to govern the whole thing, or whether or not you can surrender to spirit. So I think we've found our the way the reading needs to go. I think we found our order here. And again, with Thurisaz is asking you to break through the ego side of things and create this profound change in your life, where you can start seeing things with a higher level of clarity. And again, it may make you just want to step out of whatever this stuff is going on, and just step back and just go, okay, I'm going to go work in the garden, or I'm going to go read a book, or I'm going to go work out, or I'm going to go do something else that helps elevate me, and keeps my frequency high, and keeps my awareness pure, because I don't want to be involved in this other stuff. It's just too much, it's too ego driven. And of course, right now in the political season, we're dealing with it. We're seeing a lot of that, where now you have, I guess I read that Saudi Arabia and Russia and those folks, they have come together, OPEC, I guess, come together, and now they're going to in effect raise oil prices and raise gas, basically raise our gas prices are already too high, right? But they're coming down. Well, now they're going to go back up because of what they've done. And for many people it's unsustainable, but it's a way of that group of people controlling probably Ukraine related, that Russia wants Ukraine, or Ukraine's like no, and so now they're going to exert their own control, which means then other countries like ours will have to impose sanctions or impose this or impose that. And so it's like everything is having to react, all because there's somebody who's done something and crossed a line, with a country that just wants to live its life, right? The people just want to live and raise their kids and be a sovereign country. And now you have this big old country coming in and trying to take over. It's not going well for them, right? And so consequently now they're going to up the ante, because they want this measure of power, this measure of control, this measure of domination, right? And so you can see where does all that stop? And the same thing in terms of relationships we have, where does that sort of thing stop? Where it's one person, doing things and someone else stands up and says, hey, wait, what are you doing? And then in order to shut them up, they gotta, be abusive or do whatever they do. It's that sort of layering effect where everything builds. If someone in the equation doesn't step off and say, okay, enough. I'm gonna, I'll protect myself with Thursdays, but I'm going to go and create a better reality for myself. If you don't do that, then it festers and festers and festers. And I think that that's a lot of the energy that's happening right now. People are going along with something that is not a healthy thing to do. And it's not anything that's going to get people collectively in a better place. And I think that when you start thinking in terms of yourself as a soul, then you start wanting to collectively get into that better place, right? It's not something that's going to be so filled with ego that you can't do that. And the only way to do that is to walk away from it and get some distance so you get that better perspective. And again, I think that, where Kata Draconis comes in is that it allows us to kind of look at past experience. And if you can go into meditation and feel the energies of the past life experience, then you can get a real understanding, even if you can't do that, just looking at how the past is influencing the present in an objective way opens that door. Again, with Chiron in retrograde right now, it opens that door to really reflect on how those experiences have changed you and whether or not that changes for the better, or if you can find a different insight into how all that happened and come and get your peace with it, find the peace within it. Especially the fact that those situations are no longer happening, and yet we still function as if they are. It's when you get into the victim modality. And I've known people like this where, and I mean, everybody experiences it from time to time where you kind of feel a little sorry for yourself. But the fact is that the things that we focus on are no longer happening. Eckhart Tolle talks a lot about this. It's kind of the main thrust of what he writes about staying present in the moment and realizing that what was is no longer happening. So why are you still reacting to it as if it is? It's that sort of experience. And I think that when ego comes in, when we focus on the past and worrying about the future and not dealing solely with the present, it impacts that, and you don't have the ability to deal solely with the present. So that's another factor of that comes to mind here. But again, the dichotomy between letting ego control the interactive experience we have with others versus the higher self controlling it. You're either once you come here, then you start to break through all of the obstacles that you were experiencing before, and you literally see things from a different perspective. And it's one that is not so judgmental, maybe completely not judgmental. And you hopefully you get to that point. That's kind of a tough one, but we have to get there where we choose to see things the way we choose to see them, instead of and deciding what that is from a higher perspective, instead of you give meaning to everything that you see, everything that you experience. You provide the meaning for that. In and of itself, it's just stuff to look at. But the minute you start giving it that value judgment, then that's when the ego comes in, because that's where that's coming from, instead of just observing and going, okay, what can I take from this? What can I learn from it? And I think that it's kind of like with the benefit of hindsight with Kata Draconis, with the benefit of that, then you can break through the obstacles, the things that are keeping you stuck, that are keeping your interactions with others in a place that's maybe not so comfortable. So I think that's really what this is about. And here you've got, with the 3 energy of the 3 of Pentacles, the 3 energy of the 12th card of the major arcana. That's 6. 15 is the card. It's the 15th card of the major arcana is the Devil. So that's another 6. And so it seems to me that you've got 1 6, and then you've got the 6 over here. So clearly the Hanged Man is your answer. In order for this to be to create the 6 numerology and the shared path that you need to be on, you've got to leave the sky and the focus on the ego in the dust, instead of the soul in the dust, as I said before. So that's another way to sort of visually look at this numerologically. But then, overall we have a 3 numerology for the whole reading, so, or at least in terms of the cards. So again, it sort of identifies this as keeping a better mind, body, spirit balance, and having it more heavily weighted on spirit. So I guess that's it. That's it for a Thursday. We went a little bit over. It's 32 minutes here, so a little bit over, but that's okay. Well, I hope you have a good weekend. I know this is kind of some weighty stuff this week to think about things, but I think that we're in this tipping point with humanity where we've got to make a choice of who we're going to be. Are we going to be a slave to ego, a slave to desire, or are we going to step outside of that and see things from a more spiritual perspective? I think the only choice we have, if we want to reduce the chaos in the world, is to go the way of spirit. But we'll see. That's unfortunately a choice that you're either going to be somebody that's been moving in that direction, or you're somebody who's going to have an awakening of sorts and then move in that direction. But I believe everyone at some point will. Whether that happens in our lifetime or it'll take a little longer, I don't know. But I think that as more and more people move in that direction of spirituality, they just have realized that it's very hard to be in the ego. It gets to the point where you're not functioning well. And I think people just drop resistance to that and they move into spirit. And it's so much nicer to be there than it is to constantly be in the struggle that ego's going to give you. So anyway, interesting. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming by. If you haven't yet clicked subscribe, I'd love you to do that. Check out my blog, Stepping Aside. The web address there is imsteppingaside.com. If you forget, just click on show more below the video, and it'll open up a box. And the first part of it is just some paragraphs on what I'm doing here. And then down below that, you'll see the links, and Stepping Aside is there. Also some links to some books I've written, the more recent ones. I'm working on another one right now, and I'm not sure when that's going to come out, probably in the spring. But I'm not going to say any more about it. I never do. But I need to finish it. I've sort of been vacillating about it, and not really sure what I could uh, uh, really do with it. And then I took it out of one application. I used Scrivener to write, and then I put it over into Word, and it was much longer than I thought it was going to be. So I'm like, well, maybe I got something here. But anyway, I'm working on that, and so now that the garden is coming to a close, where I'll be spending more time doing that, and so look forward to that coming out probably in the spring, maybe before. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. It's pretty much. I mean, it's half written in a lot of ways, or more than half written, but I've still got a few other things to do in terms of organizing it and whatnot. So anyway, there's that. So I hope you're all going to have a good weekend, and just give it some thought. If ego is cropping up in your life in a way that causes discomfort, the answer is to move towards spirit. That's just the initial choice you make, and see where that takes you. And come back again on Monday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.